Justice will be served.
So guys, welcome to my review and breakdown for The Flash Season 9 Episode 2, titled Hear No Evil. This is obviously the very last second episode we will ever get. So the countdown is finally happening for the episodes to lessen until we obviously get no more, sadly. But yeah, Season 9 Episode 2 titled Hear No Evil. What did I think of it? Now, I thought this episode was better than last episode, you know. I really liked this new addition of Caitlyn's character. Just adds like a new refreshing take on not only the show, but also gives Danielle Panabaker more to do, so I really like that. It sets some very, very interesting stuff up going forward. The only thing I would say about this is that this should have been something that happened last season instead of happening this season, because this is the final season and I don't really want them to focus and develop other characters other than the Flash, because this is the Flash's final season. And like, you know, if we're heading down this path with like different characters having the main stories in the episodes, I would be getting worried, because it will feel like what Supergirl has been doing with their final season, where they focus on the team as a whole rather than Supergirl. I want something like what Arrow did, where it just primarily focused on Oliver Queen and the sacrifice, and that's it. That's what I wanted to initially hope for going into The Flash Season 9. And yes, in some aspects, Episode 1 did do it, but it didn't separate it. It didn't, separate Barry and Iris, which I know a lot of people do like, but I need them to be separate. I need the Flash to have his own story. I need Iris to have her own story. And over here, it didn't really help that another character was getting the main story over the Flash. That does get me a little bit more worried, and I don't know, it will be interesting to see what episode 3 is like. But now from the ending, I guess now things could slowly start picking up, because Red Death has pretty much finally arrived, and like, you know, or shall we say she is back to normal. Now obviously we did have the really cool Red Death ending, which we will talk about, you know, her revenge plan and how this could tease like, you know, future Flash, and it could even potentially tease the multiverse as well. Now, we do obviously have some great cinematography once again in this episode. Whoever directed this episode, I hope they do more, because I really like the shots and everything in this episode. Now, despite Barry being sidelined, which is another complaint I did have, the reason why I preferred this episode over last episode was tone. The tone for this episode for me was much, much better than what we had for last episode. And, you know, just certain scenes in general felt more like seasons 1 and 2, but obviously still had its like, you know, classic Flash nowadays tone as well. But it did still give more of a season 1 and 2 vibe, and that was something I did really like. The only complaints, as I said, it needed to be focused on Barry and have Caitlyn stuff on the side. That's what I would say. And we needed more action, I think. Like, I'm not really a fan of pep talks. Like, sure, we can get some here and there, but then even the action sequence we got was a little bit short. And if I'm watching a superhero show, you know, I want to be entertained with some action. I know it's a bit nitpicky to say that, but it's just my personal preference. Just something felt missing from this episode, and it was primarily because I think this is the final season and it should have had Barry as a main focal point rather than being sidelined. But yeah, going into the episode itself, obviously, first things first, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the episode, because this is a review and breakdown after all. So I'll be going over some major spoilers, which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and then come back later for this breakdown. But yeah, we kick off right from the end of last episode in Star Labs, where we get introduced to this new Snow character. She asks to call her Snow. And we have Team Flash arriving, and everyone's like, wait, this is not Caitlyn, or this is not Frost. Then, well, who are you? Now, this Snow character, as we know, doesn't have any memory, or like, she doesn't know anything. It was Chillblame that essentially caught her up and just recapped everything. Now, Chillblame comes in and pretty much explains to the team that Caitlyn never stopped trying to bring Frost back, and in return, you know, Caitlyn's gone, Frost is gone, and now this Snow character, who we later on find out is called Keon, is the one that is staying. Now, when Chillblame, revealed Caitlyn's dead and everything, Caitlyn's death needed more of an emotional response, in my opinion, because this is, after all, an OG character, and it just felt like no one cared. They're just like, oh my god, what? And that was pretty much it. So that felt a bit off, and, if you were to, do something like this with Caitlyn's death, it needed more of the emotional response, in my opinion, because literally, other than like a shocked reaction, no one really cared. That was a bit surprising. But we find out that this plan Chillblaine has to bring Caitlyn back is actually for his own selfish needs, and that is to obviously bring Frost back. But he tells Team Flash that to bring Caitlyn, they need to use the cryopod and use a Starlab's power source to make it work. Now, we didn't get this very cool transition, and we have Joe and Cecile just talking about, Caitlyn dying and stuff, which this had more of an emotional response, but no one in Team Flash seemed to care. But then they obviously continue from their conversation of last episode with Joe leaving Central City, and we have Cecile thinking about the greater good, she kind of likes the superhero stuff like that, which it doesn't make sense. She shouldn't be a superhero. She should just leave with Joe if anything like this happened. It shouldn't even be up for discussion, in my opinion. Now, Barry's guilt starts kicking in, and Barry pretty much blames himself for all of this. He does mention later on in the episode that he doesn't regret it. He feels like he did do the right thing, but he just doesn't regret what he did. But we then head over to Hartley at the club. Hartley is obviously the returning character for this episode, but he is met by the new Fiddler, whether it's post-crisis Fiddler or Multiverse Fiddler or something like that. I don't know, but we had some really, really cool shots, as I said, in this episode, and this short fight scene was definitely one of them. But Fiddler defeats Hartley, and Hartley pretty much runs away. Now, we know Fiddler's after Hartley because Red Death needs the gauntlets. We find that out from the ending of the episode, but yeah, we obviously find out the purpose of, why Red Death was gathering all of these parts in the first place. Now, this Snow character then goes into the cryopod, but obviously, as you would expect, things go wrong, and then she accidentally slips that the real plan was to bring them back, but most specifically Frost, because let's be honest, Chillblaine didn't really care if Caitlyn came back or not. He just wanted Frost. But, he just said, oh, we could have just brought both of them back. That's what he had initially hoped for. Now, while that's happening, we obviously had a breach alert, and that's when Hartley arrives to Star Labs and, asks for Caitlyn. But Barry said that, Caitlyn's just away. But then it was Barry that ends up helping Hartley. So, yeah, that was pretty cool, I guess. And I really liked it when, I believe it was Iris that walked in and said, how'd you get in here? And Hartley just responded, well, I used to work here, duh. So, I thought that was pretty funny as well. But yeah, Hartley does mention that he got attacked by someone with a violin. And then this is when Iris brings up Izzy Bowman, which is an Easter egg to the metahuman in Season 4, aka the original Fiddler. But yeah, obviously Hartley's like, nope, it's not her, so I don't need to block her from my following list or something like that. But then we had this really, really insane scene. I really love this scene where, they're back at the warehouse, the metahumans. Fiddler's over there saying the plan didn't work. Red Death just throws Fiddler onto the floor, electrocutes her, and then she's just like, failure is not an option, things like that. These small scenes just shows that Red Death is one of those, really cool and just menacing villains. So that was something I really liked having. Kind of feels like Zoom in a way. So this was something I am really liking. Zoom bringing in the metas, telling them to do the work. And then, if things go wrong, then ends up torturing. That felt very Zoom-like in my opinion. And I'm all for it. It was something really, really cool. And I really loved that scene a lot. We then have a pep talk scene between Barry and Chillblaine, where obviously Barry goes to the bar and, talks to Chillblaine. He does understand why, Chillblaine lied and he did what he did. And then he pretty much adds him to Team Flash. But he says, there's no going rogue. You're part of the team now. We need to trust you. You need to trust us. Stuff like that. But we then have this really, really, just sweet and just very cute scene with the new Snow character, where obviously we have Hartley pretty much getting triggered about, the gauntlets. He's trying to, increase the frequency of them. And then we have this new Snow character talking to Hartley, and like you can tell the differences between all three characters, Frost, Snow, or Keon, and Caitlin. But this character, she's just very very sweet, very innocent, like you could tell from this conversation. So I thought that was pretty cute. But yeah, Hartley was kind of being a d-head to her, but this Snow character did find a way to essentially help Hartley out with the situation. Now, we did then have this weird like voting thing to bring either Caitlyn or Frost back, and that was because earlier on in the episode they found out that they could only bring one back, but then the other one will pretty much remain dead, and pretty much Keon would have been dead as well. So this just felt weird to me because I don't really know how you can vote for something like this where you bring one person back but then two people die. So I wasn't really a fan of that scene, and then the votings felt weird. Like, for example, I still didn't get why, like, for example, Iris voted for Frost instead of Caitlyn. Like, I was pretty surprised about that. The scene in general, I wasn't really a fan of it because, as I said, you can't really vote for something like this. But then eventually, obviously, it does get solved later on in the episode. But also at the same time, this was predictable because Eric Willis did technically spoil this in interviews as well. So we kind of already knew that this character was going to be around for the remainder of the season. But yeah, Hartley goes to confront Fiddler at the club, in which Fiddler pretty much sends everyone to a vibrational field or something like that. But Hartley obviously thinks that they are dead, and that pretty much triggers Hartley. Now Barry then runs in, throws lightning at the violin to pretty much destroy it, so to assume that the Fiddler is obviously powerless, in which no, she's not powerless because she also has the canary cry, and I wasn't really a fan of them using the same like sound effect they use for Black Canary. I thought that was a bit lazy in my opinion. Barry does obviously phase through the vibration or like the scream, and then we have Hartley taking the Fiddler down, in which he's about to kill her, and then we have Barry pep talking and pretty much takes Hartley to this vibrational field by vibrating so fast, and it shows that everyone's pretty much alive, so there's no point to pretty much killing the Fiddler. Now I just wish there was a bit more action because this was just it felt very anticlimactic in my opinion. It wasn't really like that cool or anything like that, so it did bring the episode a bit down because I am someone that does like some action at least in episodes. Of this one, it was just way too short, and once again Barry felt too sidelined. But the conflict doesn't end there because Boomerang comes in, throws a boomerang at the Flash, and pretty much like makes the Flash not really hallucinate or anything, but like he can't see properly, like it's all like blurry stuff like that. But then he's able to obviously take Hartley's gauntlet, and then we both have the Fiddler and Boomerang leaving. So the team obviously find out that they are working together. Two new metas in pretty much 2 different days. But yeah, we then head to this Snow character, and then she obviously calls herself Keon, and she wants to take her own path, so she's not going to enter the cryopod and choose between Frost or Caitlyn. She just wants to live her own life, which, as I said, it was predictable because Eric Wells did spoil it. I am interested to see what's next with her in terms of her character, but again, as I said, I will be kind of worried if they do put her as like a main focus for too long. I guess it was only for this episode because they are introducing a brand new character after all, so it is kind of understandable. But hopefully we do start picking up with the main storyline, having Barry as the main focus and stuff like that, because that is what we do really need at the moment. But yeah, we then have Red Death using the gauntlets, and pretty much it stops her from vibrating. And then in terms of like the vibrating and everything, we were like, okay, it could be the new Negative Speed Force avatar, because after all, she's vibrating, she's got the red lightning, she's pretty much doing everything Reverse Flash can do. But also, you can also assume that she can't stop vibrating, so she needs this because she needs to like, change up the vibrational frequency, and we know that is kind of related to Multiverse. So this does pretty much get me conflicted on my theory, because now it does seem like they could be doing Multiverse with like the vibrational frequencies and stuff like that. But once again, it could still be an alternate timeline Batwoman, it could still be Reverse Flashpoint Batwoman, but the only difference would be that she's not used to her powers, so she can't like stop vibrating, for example. I could see something like that as well. But yeah, Red Death pretty much runs around the city and then goes back to normal. Like, we do see the full-on suit. does look really cool. I do really like how the Red Death suit looks, and it does look pretty damn comic book accurate as well with what they can do. So it looks pretty sweet, and she looks really menacing like this. But yeah, she says something like, Central City, the Flash disgraced me, and now you will pretty much pay the price and justice will be served. She says something like that. Now, what does this mean? Now, it's clear that the Red Death and the Flash have, encountered each other from Red Death's perspective. Now, this could either be if Red Death is from the future, or if this is Reverse Flashpoint Batwoman. In terms of Reverse Flashpoint Batwoman, it could be that, Barry just completely erased her timeline, so, Red Death wouldn't really be too happy about this, because all of her, loved ones and stuff like that were gone, because it's like a timeline completely erased, and because she's a speedster, she would be immune to that timeline change, so that could be an option. The second option is if it's alternate timeline Batwoman, or if it's just future Batwoman in general, then that means, maybe Batwoman's loved ones died and she asked Barry to help out time travel, bring those loved ones back, in which Barry obviously would reject due to the repercussions of time travel. Or if it's multiverse, then something big would have happened, but it would be interesting to see why Red Death picked this Earth specifically if it is multiverse related. But yeah, we then end off the episode as well with Team Flash just pretty much having fun. As I said, it felt more like a season 1 type thing where we have them having these fun scenes like that. But yeah, guys, this is pretty much it in terms of the review. So if you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought about this episode. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of it as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.